if you could offer one piece of advice for bikers of the next generation, what would it be? In this modern day world filled with technology and distractions, it's difficult to find someone you can trust. When you need a lawyer, you don't want a stranger. You want someone you believe in. Welcome to the Biker Rebellion. I'm your host, Ginger, here with founding member of the Biker Lawyers, Pete Leehey. And today, we're going to take you into the life of Pete. Now, Pete, you've been an attorney for nearly 4 decades now. Is that correct?
Yep, we're closing in on 40 years.
Wow. And what led you down the path to being an attorney in the first place all those years ago?
Well, it's really not what I would consider a compelling or a sexy story, but I came from a family that was heavily involved in the medical field, and as it turned out, I was a moron in the kind of fields you needed to be smart in to go into that. I hated math, I hated science.
Yeah.
I knew what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were, and I just kind of narrowed things down until I found a vocation that seemed to match my strengths, and that was really the start of it.
Moving maybe a little bit more on the personal side, at some point in everyone's career, they stop and ask themselves, is this what I really want to do until I retire? What kept you in the game all of these years?
I had that moment. It stretched over about 5 years probably, but I had just hit a point in my career that I had gotten bored with what I was doing.
Sure.
And not really getting a whole lot of satisfaction out of it. I was searching for something I could do that involved my motorcycle.
Sure.
That I could continue to earn a living, and it just morphed into what we now have, which is the Biker Lawyers.
So why the Biker Lawyers, and why not just a fancy suit and a fancier office? I know you kind of started to answer that at the end of this last question.
Part of getting bored with practice and law is some of the things putting on a suit and tie every day and going to the office, that gets old.
Sure.
In reality, it puts a barrier, in my opinion, between you and your clients because they're coming in dressed like normal people, and here you are sitting in a fancy suit. To me, I felt like it sent the wrong message. So, a long time ago, I started dressing down to, A, be more personally comfortable myself, and
Sure.
B, to make it a more comfortable environment for the people that were coming to see me.
Fair. Let's talk a little bit more about the biker side of things. What got you into riding in the first place?
So I had this buddy when I was in grade school. His name was Tim, and he lived out on the edge of the town that I grew up in. He had this single-speed mini bike.
Okay.
Man, we'd go out there and ride that thing. That was so much fun, and that was absolutely the start of me falling in love with motorcycling, was riding that mini bike.
And what bike do you ride these days? I'm going to assume it's not a mini bike.
No, it's not a mini bike. It's a kind of a maxi bike.
Fair.
I ride a 2016 Indian Chief Vintage.
Nice. But we get asked all the time about what insurance does somebody need to carry. What amount do you actually carry on your bike?
I carry what's known as a 500,000 single limit policy for liability, uninsured, underinsured, and then a $2 million umbrella over the top of it.
And the point of this is to protect assets.
I know from representing tons and tons of bikers that every year you get these sad stories coming through the door where people have horrible injuries and there's just not enough insurance to cover the losses. So I want to make damn sure if I get in a crash, and knowing that the people that caused the crash probably aren't going to have enough insurance to cover my losses, I want to be damn sure I'm covered. And
Right.
That's why I carry the policies that I carry.
And that makes a little bit more sense if you consider the last time I checked the stats, like 10% of Iowa drivers are just uninsured entirely.
Yep. If you go out and stand on the street corner, 1 out of every 10 cars on average is going to be uninsured. And in my experience, almost all of the rest of them aren't going to have enough insurance for any kind of a serious crash. That's why people don't think about this, and there's nobody out there teaching this, including insurance agents, but you have to be thinking about, what about me? What about me if I get in a crash? Who's going to protect me? Because I'm promising you it's not going to be the other guy.
Right.
If you don't take care of yourself in advance with your own auto insurance or motorcycle insurance, if the unfortunate happens, you're going to end up in a place that you just don't want to be, and it's going to cause you huge financial losses that are going to be really tough to recover from.
So, talking a little bit more about insurance, what do you think the role of insurance should be?
The role of insurance is to protect us from misfortune. I mean, I know that's a really simplified way of putting it, but if you think about what I just said, you're in a terrible crash.
Right.
That means that you've got big medical bills. It means you've been out of work for a long time. It probably means you've been laid up at home, not able to do very much at all.
Okay.
So if you've got the right kind of insurance, the right coverage, it's going to replace those things financially that you have lost, and it's going to at least make some attempt at placing value on the things that you've lost that aren't easy to put dollar signs on.
So, do we think of insurance kind of like taxes, a necessary evil to ensure stability?
Well, let's put it this way. I say this especially if you ride a motorcycle and have a family. It's just, in my opinion, irresponsible not to have really good insurance on your motorcycle, because if you go down, your family's going to suffer.
And we've seen it. We've seen it. We have a saying that here at the law firm, that if insurance companies did their job, we wouldn't have this one. What does that mean to you?
That means that if insurance companies really looked at injured people and tried to reimburse them fairly for what their losses are, those people wouldn't need people like me to go to bat for them against the insurance companies, because the insurance companies would just do the right thing. But, I mean, that's maybe a little naive on my part, because I understand that insurance companies are profit driven and their incentive is to save money, which means it's a disincentive to paying people what they really ought to pay them. But if insurance companies did that, people wouldn't need my help, and I'd be doing things like title opinions on houses and writing wills and, whatever other legal work there might be out there that is available.
Sure. Now, as part of this job for the biker lawyers, I mean, we go to rallies. We go to all the biker events that we can, and we slot in, I'd say roughly a third of our weekends at least get eaten up by these different events. You've been to a lot of them over the years. Which one do you look forward to most every year, and why?
And I don't want to slight any of these great biker events that I go to, because they all have their appeal for different reasons. But I have to say, if I could only go to one, it would be the Abate of Iowa Freedom Rally.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. It's like a homecoming. I mean, a lot of the other events that we go to tend to be more regional to the state of Iowa.
Sure.
For example, Conesville, Romper Room, those are Eastern Iowa events. You have people from all over, but it's mostly Eastern Iowa people.
Sure.
Whereas the Abate of Iowa Freedom Rally, you get people not only from all over Iowa, but all over the Midwest. It's really like a homecoming. You just see tons of people that's the only time you ever see them.
Sure. And speaking of all the other bikers, if you could offer one piece of advice for bikers of the next generation, what would it be?
Get involved, stay involved, be active. I think a lot of us take motorcycling for granted and all the things that come with it, but the reality is that there are legislators convening at the State House every year considering laws that will alter the landscape of how we ride, what we wear when we ride. So it's important for those reasons to be involved. But the other thing is, riding a motorcycle is, it really kind of puts you in a big family. It's a very social thing.
Right.
And the more you get involved, the more you can be involved.
True. And for those who are thinking, well, I'll just ride my motorcycle on my own time, I don't need to join the community, there are battles being fought. And some of those battles are whether or not gas stations will have gas you can put in your tank for a motorcycle, because you're not really supposed to put in unleaded ethanol-based fuel into your motorcycle. I believe it still voids the warranty on a lot of motorcycles to even do that. So if if these battles are lost, good luck finding a place to gas up, which is the problem. I mean, more so than even the helmet laws, which we're trying to keep out, mostly because it's irritating to be told whether we should or shouldn't wear a helmet. It's not that we don't think helmets are safe. You and I, we both know that they are. It's really a question of, should you have the freedom to choose whether or not to wear them? And that's more of an Iowa issue than most states, because I think other states have gone the other way and just been like, nah, helmets forever. But that's Iowa. We're not quite there yet, and we're still fighting that battle. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you're in a crash in the Midwest, give us a call for your free consultation. And until next time, speak truth to power. Brought to you by the Biker Lawyers. Injured? Ride with us.